By the end of this course, you should be able to describe how to remove the electrical rotor using HD 52968. Explain why the use of zip ties to retain the rotor and Sprague drive gear is imperative. Describe how HD 52970 aids in reassembly if improperly removed or handled. Describe the steps for removal of the starter slipper clutch and feed oil pump and balancer drive components.
So we're going to remove the electrical rotor. We're going to use part number HD 52968. We need to use this tool to prevent the crank locking tool from breaking. All the force needs to be applied to that tool. We're going to use a 24mm socket on the inside where the nut is located. I'm going to remove the bolt. And we're going to install the tool that removes the rotor from the taper on the crankshaft. That's HD 52969. We're going to install it. We're going to not use the locking tool and tighten the remover pin until the rotor breaks free. Install zip ties through the rotor and under the Sprague drive gear so that we don't lose the bearings, the starter drive bearings that are in the back. If the drive gear comes free of the rotor, these bearings fall out, and then you have to use the other special tool to get it assembled. So what we're going to do now is we're going to demonstrate the use of the pilot tool for the Sprague bearings, the drive clutch. This is HD 52970. Normally, when removing the rotor from the crankshaft, you're going to install zip ties to hold the drive gear to the back so that the loose rollers don't fall out. What we're going to do now is demonstrate what you do if, in fact, a customer or someone inadvertently separates the two pieces together. That's what the assembly pilot is for. So in the vehicle, if you separate these two, there's a high potential that the loose rollers are going to fall into the coolant manifold cavity and then get stuck into the pump potentially. So what we're going to do is demonstrate how you get this back together. What you want to do is make sure that these rollers are captured in these springs. And I'm just going to gently pull back the spring and insert the roller. And then normally trying to install this becomes very tough to do, to get all those roller bearings to line up. It doesn't want to go in. So we're going to make sure all the rollers are back. And we're going to install the taper side, the large taper side down. The needle bearing goes over the top. We'll install our drive gear and then slowly rotate until all of the rollers go back into their cages. So it's not going in. I must have one that's out. I've got one that's out right here. I'm going to tip them up. Key is not to put too much pressure downward and then do what I just did there. It's light pressure and a counterclockwise rotation. There it is. So it's very difficult to assemble without the pilot tool. And then once together, you can pull the pilot out, keeping the two together. Reinstall zip ties before you put it on the vehicle. We're going to remove the starter slipper clutch. Using the paper clip, you can make a suitable tool to help hold the oil pump and balancer drive into place. And remove with a 10mm socket. And then using the balancer tool, and an 8mm 12-point socket. Then we can remove the feed pump, cover bolts, and then the feed pump cover will come off along with the pressure relief valve. And the feed gear can then be removed.
With completion of this video, you will now be able to describe how to remove the electrical rotor using HD 52968, explain why the use of zip ties to retain the rotor and sprague drive gear is imperative, describe how HD 52970 aids in reassembly if improperly removed or handled, describe the steps for removal of the starter slipper clutch and feed oil pump and balancer drive components,